Right now, inside your brain, there is a slow fire burning. You cannot feel it, you cannot see it, but scientists can measure it. It is called neuroinflammation, and it is one of the quiet forces behind memory loss, brain fog, and yes, dementia. Here is the part that surprised me the most. This fire does not start in your 60s or 70s. It can start decades earlier, while you still feel completely normal. By the time most people notice memory problems, the underlying damage has often been building for years. Now here is some good news. There is one kitchen spice, used for thousands of years, that has real published research behind its ability to calm this exact kind of brain inflammation. It is sitting in your spice rack right now. Most people walk past it every single day without knowing what it can actually do. But before you run to your kitchen and start sprinkling it on everything, I need to warn you about something. There is one mistake, a very common one, that can take this powerful spice and make it almost useless, or in some cases even risky for certain people. I am going to walk you through several body changes this remedy may support, from the most everyday to the most important. The last one is the one that ties everything together, and it is the one most people never hear about. Stay with me, because if you skip the warning section, you could be doing real harm without realizing it. Before we get into the benefits, I want to plant one thought in your mind. Most people who try this remedy make one specific mistake in how they take it. This mistake does not just reduce the benefits. In some cases, it can interact with medications many of you over 50 are already taking. I will explain exactly what that mistake is and how to avoid it later in this video. For now, just remember, how you take something matters as much as what you take. Let's start with something almost every person watching this can relate to. You wake up in the morning and your knees feel stiff, your fingers feel tight. Getting out of bed is not as easy as it used to be. This is one of the most common complaints among men over 50, and it is often dismissed as just getting older. Here is what is actually happening. As we age, the body produces more inflammatory compounds called cytokines. These compounds build up in joint tissue and contribute to that stiff, achy feeling. This is not something you imagined. It is measurable, and it has a name: low-grade chronic inflammation. Turmeric contains a compound called curcumin. Curcumin has been studied for its ability to reduce specific inflammatory markers in the body, including some of the same pathways involved in joint discomfort. Several clinical studies have compared curcumin to over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medication for joint stiffness and found comparable improvement in symptoms for some participants, with fewer reported digestive side effects. This does not mean curcumin replaces medication. It means there is real science behind why people reach for this spice when their joints start talking back to them. Now here is the small mistake most people make with this first benefit. They buy turmeric powder, sprinkle a small pinch into their food, and expect results. The problem is dosage and absorption. The amount of curcumin in a light sprinkle of turmeric is often too small to produce a noticeable effect. Curcumin also does not absorb well into the bloodstream on its own. Without the right preparation, much of it simply passes through your digestive system unused. I will show you exactly how to fix this later in this video because it applies to everything we are about to cover. For now, just understand this. The stiffness you feel in the morning is not random. It is your body's inflammatory response, and there is a real, researched way to support it. Think about what this actually means for your daily life. Stiff joints are not just uncomfortable, they change how you move through your day. Maybe you skip the morning walk because your knees feel tight. Maybe you avoid bending down to play with a grandchild because you are not sure your back will cooperate. Over time, that avoidance compounds. Less movement leads to more stiffness, and more stiffness leads to even less movement. It becomes a slow, quiet cycle that many men accept as simply part of getting older, without realizing there is a researched way to interrupt it. But here's where it gets interesting. Joint stiffness is just the surface. What this spice may do deeper inside your body is where things get genuinely fascinating. And it starts with a part of your body most people never think to blame for fatigue. If you find yourself crashing in the early afternoon, reaching for coffee just to get through the next 2 hours, this next part is for you. Most people blame fatigue on poor sleep or just getting older, but there is another piece of the puzzle that rarely gets mentioned, and it has to do with how your body handles sugar. Here's what most people miss. When blood sugar spikes and crashes throughout the day, it does not just affect your waistline. It directly affects your energy levels, your focus, and over time, your risk for several chronic conditions. This roller coaster pattern is extremely common in adults over 50, even in people who do not have a diabetes diagnosis. This is where curcumin's research becomes genuinely surprising. Multiple studies have looked at curcumin's effect on insulin sensitivity, meaning how efficiently your cells respond to insulin and pull sugar out of your bloodstream. In several trials, curcumin supplementation was associated with modest improvements in markers related to blood sugar control. One often cited study followed pre-diabetic adults over 9 months and found a notable reduction in the progression to type 2 diabetes among those taking curcumin compared to those who did not. I want to be careful here because this is exactly the kind of claim that gets exaggerated online. Curcumin is not insulin. It does not replace diabetes medication. But the research does suggest it may support healthier blood sugar regulation as part of a broader approach that includes diet and activity. For someone fighting that midday energy crash, steadier blood sugar can mean steadier energy, without the spike and crash pattern that leaves you reaching for your 4th cup of coffee. This connects directly to brain health, by the way. Your brain runs almost entirely on glucose for fuel. When blood sugar swings wildly, your brain feels it first, often as fog, irritability, or that mid-afternoon mental fatigue you cannot think your way out of. It is worth pointing out that researchers have started referring to certain patterns of cognitive decline as having a metabolic component, since the same insulin resistance that affects your body's cells can also affect cells in your brain. This does not mean blood sugar issues cause dementia directly. It means the two are connected closely enough that supporting one may help support the other. Before we move on, this next one changes everything, because we are about to talk about a connection between your gut and your brain that most people have never even heard of. Here is something that sounds strange the first time you hear it, but it is one of the most well-supported areas of modern health research. Your gut and your brain are in constant communication through something called the gut-brain axis. This is not a fringe theory. It is studied extensively at major research universities, and it helps explain why digestive health and mental clarity so often go hand in hand. Your gut contains trillions of bacteria, collectively called the gut microbiome. These bacteria do more than digest food. They produce neurotransmitters, including a large portion of your body's serotonin, the chemical closely tied to mood and mental stability. When the gut microbiome becomes imbalanced, a state researchers call dysbiosis, it can contribute to increased inflammation that travels well beyond the digestive system, including toward the brain. This is where curcumin's role becomes interesting again. Research suggests curcumin may support a healthier balance of gut bacteria, encouraging the growth of beneficial strains while helping to calm inflammation in the gut lining. A calmer, more balanced gut environment means less inflammatory signaling traveling up to the brain through the gut-brain axis. Think of it like insider knowledge most doctors don't have time to explain in a 15-minute appointment. Your digestion is not separate from your mental clarity. They are deeply connected systems, constantly talking to each other. When your gut is inflamed, your brain often feels it as fog, low mood, or that hard-to-describe feeling of just not being sharp. I want to keep this simple because the science here can get complicated fast. You do not need to memorize the word microbiome or understand every pathway. Just remember this one idea. A healthier gut environment is linked to a calmer brain environment. And one of the simplest ways to support that gut environment naturally is through anti-inflammatory compounds like curcumin, taken consistently and correctly. This is also why so many people report feeling mentally clearer after improving their digestion, even before they notice any change in memory specifically. The gut often speaks first. Bloating eases, regularity improves, and a few weeks later, many people notice they are thinking just a little more clearly. That order of events is not a coincidence. It reflects the very real biological pathway connecting your digestive system to your brain. This gut-brain relationship sets up something important for what comes next, because the next part involves a connection between two parts of your body that you would never think to link together. This next one surprised me when I first read the research, and I think it will surprise you too. We are talking about your skin, specifically the redness, slow healing, and dullness that many men notice as they get into their 50s, 60s, and beyond. Most people treat skin issues as a completely separate category from internal health. You buy a cream, you put it on, you hope it works. But skin is actually your body's largest organ, and it reflects what is happening inside you far more than most people realize. Chronic, low-grade inflammation, the same inflammation we have been discussing throughout this video, shows up on the surface of your skin as slower wound healing, increased redness, and a duller overall appearance. Curcumin has been studied for its topical and internal effects on skin health, largely because of its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. Antioxidants help neutralize unstable molecules called free radicals, which damage skin cells over time and contribute to visible aging. Some research has looked at curcumin's potential to support wound healing by reducing inflammation at the site of injury, allowing the body's natural repair processes to work more efficiently. Here is the connection that ties this back to brain health, and it is the part that genuinely surprised me. The same inflammatory pathways that show up as redness or slow healing on your skin are often active inside your blood vessels and brain tissue as well. Inflammation rarely stays in one isolated area. It tends to be a body-wide pattern. So when you see signs of inflammation on the outside, it is reasonable to ask what might be happening on the inside, including in the brain. This does not mean a slow healing cut means you have a brain problem. That would be an exaggeration, and I promised you no exaggerated claims in this video. What it does mean is that supporting your body's overall inflammatory balance through diet, movement, and compounds like curcumin may have effects that reach further than you would expect, from your skin all the way to your cognitive health. But what I save for later, that one connects everything together. Right now, let's talk about something that takes longer to build, but may matter even more. This part is different from the others because it is not something you feel right away. It builds slowly, over months and years, which is exactly why most people overlook it. We are talking about your cardiovascular system, your heart and the blood vessels that carry blood to every organ in your body, including your brain. Here is something many people do not connect. Your brain receives roughly 20% of your body's blood supply, despite being a small percentage of your total body weight. That means healthy blood vessels are not just important for your heart, they are essential for delivering oxygen and nutrients to your brain every single moment of every day. Research on curcumin has examined its effect on endothelial function, meaning the health and flexibility of the inner lining of your blood vessels. Several studies have found that curcumin supplementation was associated with improved endothelial function, comparable in some trials to the effects of regular aerobic exercise. Curcumin has also been studied for its potential to help reduce oxidative stress and modestly improve markers related to cholesterol balance. I want to be completely honest with you here because this is an area where it would be easy to overstate the benefit. This is not a cure for cardiovascular disease. It will not undo years of poor diet or reverse existing blockages. What the research suggests is more modest but still meaningful, consistent long-term support for blood vessel health, as one piece of a much larger picture that includes diet, exercise, sleep, and yes, appropriate medical care when needed. This is the kind of benefit that does not show up on a scale or in a mirror. You will not wake up one day and feel dramatically different, but healthier blood vessels, maintained consistently over years, support healthy blood flow to every organ in your body, including the one that controls your memory, your focus, and your independence as you age. This is also why doctors who study brain aging often say that what is good for your heart tends to be good for your brain as well. The two systems share the same network of blood vessels. A heart-healthy lifestyle, supported by anti-inflammatory compounds like curcumin, is not a separate strategy from a brain-healthy lifestyle. In many ways, they are the same strategy, viewed from two different angles. Now, what I'm about to tell you next builds directly on this idea, and it sets the stage for the final two parts, which are the most important ones in this entire video. We are getting close to the big one now, so let's lay the groundwork. This part is about memory and focus, the very things most people watching this video are quietly concerned about, even if they have not said it out loud. Several human studies have specifically examined curcumin's relationship to memory performance in older adults. One frequently referenced study, published in a peer-reviewed psychiatry journal, followed adults in their 50s and 60s without dementia over an 18-month period. Participants taking curcumin showed improvements in memory test performance compared to those taking a placebo, along with changes observed on brain imaging in areas associated with memory and mood. I want to pause here and be very clear about what the study does and does not show. It does not prove curcumin prevents dementia. It does not prove curcumin reverses cognitive decline. What it shows is a measurable, statistically significant improvement in specific memory tasks over a defined period in a controlled scientific setting. That is meaningfully different from a miracle cure and meaningfully different from nothing at all. Researchers believe curcumin's effects here connect back to everything we have already discussed in this video. Reduced inflammation, better blood sugar regulation, healthier blood vessels delivering oxygen to the brain, a calmer gut-brain axis. These are not separate, unrelated benefits. They are pieces of the same puzzle, and that puzzle, when assembled correctly, points toward a brain environment that is better supported to maintain memory and focus as you age. This is exactly why I structured this video the way I did. Each part we have covered builds on the last one. Your joints, your blood sugar, your gut, your skin, your blood vessels, they are not isolated systems. They are connected, and they all feed into the final piece, the one I have been building toward this entire video. But what I saved for last, that one connects everything together. It is the part that explains why all of these pieces matter, and it comes with a warning you genuinely need to hear before you go any further. Here it is, the one I have been building toward this entire video. Everything we have discussed, joint stiffness, blood sugar, gut health, skin, blood vessels, and memory, all trace back to one underlying root cause: chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout the body, including in the brain itself. Researchers studying Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia have increasingly focused on neuroinflammation as a key contributing factor. This is not the only factor. Genetics, age, cardiovascular health, sleep quality, and overall lifestyle all play significant roles. I want to be completely honest with you, because I promised at the start of this video that I would not exaggerate anything. There is no single food, spice, or supplement that prevents dementia on its own. Anyone who tells you otherwise is not being honest with you. What the research does show is more measured, but still important. Curcumin has demonstrated an ability to cross the blood-brain barrier, which is significant because many compounds cannot reach brain tissue at all. Once there, studies suggest curcumin may help reduce the buildup of amyloid plaques, the protein clumps closely associated with Alzheimer's disease, and may help calm activated immune cells in the brain called microglia, which contribute to neuroinflammation when chronically overactive. This is not a cure, it is support. Consistent, long-term biological support for an environment in your brain that is less inflamed and potentially more resilient over time. Combined with everything else we covered, you can start to see why I called this the one that ties everything together. A body with less joint inflammation, steadier blood sugar, a calmer gut, healthier skin, better blood flow, and improved memory markers is fundamentally a body with less chronic inflammation overall. That is the thread connecting every single benefit in this video. Now, here is the warning I promised you at the very beginning, and I need you to listen closely. The most common mistake people make with curcumin is taking too much, too inconsistently, or in the wrong form, believing that more is automatically better. Curcumin has poor natural bioavailability, meaning your body absorbs very little of it on its own. Some people respond to this by taking very high doses of concentrated curcumin supplements, sometimes far beyond what has been studied in clinical trials. This matters for a specific reason. Curcumin has natural blood-thinning properties. At high or poorly managed doses, it can interact with prescription blood thinners like warfarin, increasing the risk of excessive bleeding or bruising. It can also interact with certain diabetes medications, potentially causing blood sugar to drop too low when combined with prescription drugs that lower blood sugar. People with gallbladder issues should also be cautious, since curcumin can stimulate bile production. None of this means curcumin is dangerous for everyone. It means dosage, consistency, and medical guidance matter far more than people realize. I want to leave you with one more honest thought before we move into the practical part of this video. Brain health is never about one single ingredient. It is built over years through sleep, movement, diet, social connection, and yes, managing inflammation. Curcumin is one tool in that larger toolbox, supported by real research, but it works best as part of a complete approach, not as a standalone solution you take once and forget about. Let's get practical. Here is exactly how to prepare turmeric in a way that gives your body the best chance to actually absorb and use the curcumin inside it. First, understand this. Raw turmeric powder by itself is poorly absorbed. Curcumin needs two things to work effectively: a fat source and a compound called piperine, found in black pepper, which has been shown in research to significantly increase curcumin absorption into the bloodstream. Here is a simple, well-researched preparation method. Take half a teaspoon of high-quality turmeric powder. Add a quarter teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. Mix both into 1 cup of warm milk, or a plant-based milk if you prefer, since the fat content helps with absorption. Warm the mixture gently on the stove for 2 to 3 minutes, stirring continuously. Do not boil it aggressively, as excessive heat can degrade some of the active compounds. Drink this once daily, ideally with a meal, to further support absorption. This preparation is often called golden milk, and it has been used in various forms for generations. For a quicker version on busy mornings, you can stir the turmeric and black pepper directly into a warm cup of plain milk or a small amount of olive oil, skipping the stovetop step entirely. It is not quite as smooth, but it still delivers the key combination your body needs. As for which form to use, choose either fresh turmeric root or a high-quality powder from a reputable source. Avoid turmeric supplements that do not list a specific curcumin percentage or piperine content on the label, since quality and concentration vary enormously between brands. Also avoid pre-made turmeric drinks or shots loaded with added sugar, since excess sugar works directly against the anti-inflammatory effect you are trying to achieve. The most common preparation mistake is skipping the black pepper entirely. Without it, your body absorbs only a small fraction of the curcumin you consume, regardless of how much turmeric you use. Adding that small pinch of black pepper can make a measurable difference in how much of this compound your body actually receives. One more practical note: consistency matters more than intensity. Drinking a large amount of golden milk once a week will not give you the same effect as a smaller, steady daily habit. The studies showing measurable benefit involve daily or near daily use over weeks and months, not occasional use. Treat this the same way you would treat a daily walk or a daily vitamin, something woven into your routine rather than something you reach for only when you remember. Now, the part I consider the most important in this entire video. Please do not skip this, even if you are excited to start. Certain people should not use turmeric or curcumin supplements without first speaking to a doctor. This includes anyone currently taking blood-thinning medications such as warfarin, clopidogrel, or even regular aspirin therapy, since curcumin can amplify the blood-thinning effect and increase bleeding risk. It also includes anyone with gallstones or bile duct obstruction, since curcumin stimulates bile production and can worsen these conditions. People taking diabetes medication should also use caution, since curcumin may lower blood sugar further, increasing the risk of hypoglycemia when combined with prescription drugs. If you have a scheduled surgery coming up, stop using turmeric supplements at least 2 weeks beforehand due to the increased bleeding risk. People with iron deficiency should also be cautious, since some research suggests curcumin may interfere with iron absorption when used in very high doses over long periods. On dosage, more is absolutely not better. Most clinical studies showing benefit use curcumin doses in a specific, moderate range, not extremely high amounts. Taking excessive quantities does not multiply the benefit. It primarily increases the risk of side effects, including stomach upset, diarrhea, and in rare cases, liver enzyme changes that show up on routine blood work.